Hi, I'm Dawn Montefusco, and this is Write Your True Story, how to use your story to grow your business, inspire millions, and leave a legacy. And on today's show, I have a guest and dear friend, Colleen Mullen. Dr. Colleen Mullen is the founder of the Coaching Through Chaos private practice in San Diego, California. She's also the host of the Coaching Through Chaos podcast and the Shrink to Shrink on Film podcast. She has been featured in several online publications, including Fortune, Success, Everyday, Power Blog, Glamour, Psych Central, The Huffington Post, and is a relationship columnist for the Bee Quarterly magazine. Dr. Mullen specializes in outpatient addiction treatment, relationships and conflict, treating symptoms of anxiety, depression, and PTSD, and enjoys helping her clients work through transitions in their lives. You can interact with Colleen on Twitter, and I'll have her Twitter handle on this page, on Facebook, and you can also contact her through her website, which again will be there, and it's called coachingthroughchaos.com. Hi, Colleen.
Hi, Dawn.
That was fun to read.
Thanks. I know I've done a lot since the last time we met for your summit.
But tell us more about what you do in your own words and any projects you're working on.
Right. So the goal of all the things that I do at Coaching Through Chaos is to help people understand and navigate the chaos in their life better. And whether that is the chaos that comes with addiction or the chaos that comes with dysfunctional family stuff that happens when you're a child and now you're an adult and you've got messed up relationships, or people moving through transitions in life. I love working with people who are getting out of relationships before they get into their new ones so that they can look at what they either didn't see or put up with too long in the relationship that didn't work, so that they can avoid those kind of relationships in the future. So it's all about helping them navigate and understand the chaos in their life. And on the short end of it, it's also built on a theory that I wrote for my doctorate work on chaos theory and psychology. And that we'll say for another time because it's a little bit long to explain, but it does have two meanings. The chaos that I'm talking about is actually chaos theory from physics, and I combine that and use it as a way of mapping people through change. And so that's what the goal is. And now at the practice, right since we last talked, I now have 4 clinicians working for me, and and I still do my job. I hold a full caseload while I'm doing the podcast, the magazine. The magazine column is a relationship column, comes out every 3 months. And I'm really super proud for lots of the opportunities that I've had over the last few years to kind of get the word out about what we do here.
I just love it. You're so well-rounded. There's so much about you that defies your traditional psychologist, kind of avatar, the thing that we look to and think, oh, we're not allowed to get close. We're not allowed to share. We're not allowed to know anything about you. You're sort of this thing out there, and we talk to it. But you've got podcasts, articles, and there's times where, when we first met, you did talk to me, and I've heard you talk about your life, your story, your family, your vulnerabilities, the things you've been through. And I'm wondering, how has authentic and vulnerable storytelling helped you really attract your tribe and your clients to you?
Right. Well, a year ago, I started doing weekly videos on Facebook. Every Tuesday, I do like a 30-minute, 15 to 20-minute video giving people a helpful tip. But I always tell them that I'm doing this because a lot of times I pull it from things that are happening in my own life that I would like to look at, and I might share a little bit about myself in those. And certainly as a therapist in the room, in the room with my clients, I don't share as much as I do of my personal stuff as I do like when I'm doing a video that's out there for the public, because they're not my clients. When I'm in the room with my clients and we're doing therapy, it's about them. Totally. So what happens is because I've been through trauma and because I've had all sorts of stuff happen to me in life, and I've been places that I don't talk about to my clients, they don't get that they don't understand why I'm able to connect with them so well. They just get that I get them. you know? And so, there definitely are times where I'll share a little bit of myself to help move the process along. But the feedback that I get on the videos that I'm doing and on the podcast stories, because whether it's on my podcast or I guest a lot on other shows, and I tell a lot of my personal story on the other shows, you know, the feedback that I get is people get appreciative that I'm not just like, oh, I'm Dr. So-and-so and I don't talk about myself because I'm a therapist and we don't do that. You know, they appreciate that I'll share things that help them relate to me as a person. So I'm not like, oh, I got all this education, so that's why I'm going to be able to help you. It's like, yeah, education, life experience, you know, been there, done that in a lot of ways. And so people really appreciate it and they connect with it. And I get, like, even today, this afternoon, I was rushing out to get here to do our interview, and someone reached out to me from some other part of the country who's been watching my videos. I see the guy, you know, participate on them a lot, and reached out and said, you know, can you help me find a therapist in my area because I'm really getting stuck? And I'm like, sure, happy to help you, you know? And so, so people feel like I'm accessible then because of that.
Yeah, totally. And I'm assuming that in a lot of ways, I mean, you've grown in the last 2 years. Your business has grown.
Oh,
Have,
sure.
you know, and it's your coaching through chaos, you know, business. Um, do you notice though that the things that you attract into your life are just easier when you're being more authentic and vulnerable out there? Is the question, I guess.
Well, yes. And I think anybody that's, you know, participating in this summit, you know, is looking to find that out. And of course, if you are authentic, people connect with that.
Mhm.
If you are telling the truth about your story, people connect with that.
Yeah, even in your field, and that's what I think is interesting.
Yeah.
It,
Oh, I know. And I know that there's a lot of therapists out there that know that I'm out there doing a lot of this stuff, and they don't really connect with that. And, you know, and it wouldn't be their style. But, you know, that's not something that I worry about.
no, you don't. You're you, which is what I love so much about you. I was listening to the podcast of your strength. What was her name with the Strength Finders?
Oh, Alyssa Dare Nelson at the Strengths Finders
Great,
podcast.
great podcast. Your podcast is awesome, and
Thank you.
it's so diverse, really. But what I like too is you weren't just talking about your strengths in the Strength Finder podcast. You were really willing to go into the weaknesses, and then how your strengths partner to help bring those weaknesses up. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, if I'm going to hold myself out there and talk about some part of myself, I'm not going to just talk about all the good stuff. I can talk about the things that I wish I could do differently and I wish I could do better, and the things that I admire in other people who have the traits that I wish I had more of.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What
yeah.
do you think about true stories that really do build trust in business? Like, I mean, it does somehow.
Yeah. It is because people want to know who's behind the face of the business.
Yeah.
People want to know, why are you invested in this business?
Yeah.
Are you just out to make a dollar, or is there a reason that you got into whatever field that you're in?
Good.
Whether, you know, like, and I belong to a huge, like, weekly networking business group. So I'm the therapist of the group, but there's 65 other business owners here in town, and we all, like, get chances to present our story. And, you know, how does somebody, you know, I know a 30-something, like a young 30-something woman who owns a big construction company. And I was like, how'd she get there? You know, and what was her motivation? And I know her story, and it helps us connect with it. She's not just like a pretty face in front of the business and her dad runs it. Like, you know, she took the place over. And there's a lot of people out there where they are running, you know, just everyday businesses. And, you know, and I don't know, maybe it's my own personal natures. I'm curious about why people do what they do.
Yes.
And, I mean, that's why I do what I do for a living. I want to know everybody's story, and I want to know all the ins and outs of it. But I think the general population is also interested in why people go into the fields that they go into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people don't.
No, go ahead. You first.
People just don't trip into the jobs that they turn into big careers, you know. And when you have someone who's actually gone and, like, at the point of owning some sort of business,
Mm-hmm.
they put a lot of their heart into it. They put a lot of their sweat into it. They put a lot of their own investment into it. And you want to know, like, why that business for them?
Yeah, no, that is actually an excellent point that hasn't really been covered extensively yet. Just that idea that, in a great example about a woman that owns a construction company,
Yes.
yeah, when I know the story of why someone started their business, I'm 10 times more apt to gravitate toward them if I can relate in some way.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. You did say something about awareness on, well, you say a lot, but on that's the Strength Finder one, you said something about, she said something about, well, you have 7, if you know your strengths, you can up them by 7% more just by knowing about them. And you said, well, awareness is my job. That's my gig. That's what I do. I help people with awareness. When people are aware, or business owners become aware of their story, and they actually get that awareness of where they've been and where they are now, I can imagine that kind of awareness on understanding your own personal story in business can really help you understand where you're going, why you're doing what you do. I mean,
it's funny that you're mentioning that. That was my video earlier this week, it was about helping people regain their confidence when they've been like a super high achiever in their field and something's knocked them off their game, or maybe they've retired from their position, or something's happened where they can't do that anymore. And how do they regain their confidence? And it's about, kind of looking at where you've been and reminding yourself of how far you've come.
Yeah.
And even if you can't do the same thing continually right now, you have accomplished so much and you are still that person. You don't lose rankings in life because you had an injury or you retired from something. You still are the same person. You just might find that you have maybe now room for other things in your life.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah. As I've moved through a dark time and then kind of reemerged in my business, it's that story of the dark time when I reached out to my email list and on social media, and I just said, I'm just going to tell them where I've been and what's happened and how I'm so honored to be back. That actually grew my business. And I had no idea that so many people were going to go, oh my gosh, I know. Can you help me with this book? Or, and I was like, huh. But going back to your interesting, like the way that you're so bold and brave and authentic, and you're just a joy to be around, truly.
Well, thanks. I think I want you to come to San Diego so you can tell me that.
I was just there. Which is fun. But so what I wanted to say though is, have you had doubts? I'm sure you have had doubts, especially in the field, about sharing your story. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, I had doubts just about going into my field. I never thought anybody would ever listen to a word I had to say, and that, I wouldn't have any relevance. And so, and maybe I don't, but see, my own doubt. But see, it comes up like that. You put yourself out there a lot. And the thing is, when you do put yourself out there a lot, there's a lot of stuff that's like false attention in like the social media world and things like that. And it can be easy to get tripped up into thinking that all of a sudden things are going to come easier to you or something like that. And, I had a lot of nerves about putting myself out authentically, especially among the therapist groups that I'm part of online, in the communities, I should say, because they're not just groups, they're communities. And because there's a lot of judgment, because people don't do things that way. And I kind of wanted to forge my own path. Yeah. And, and then, this whole, like the weekly video thing that I do, is definitely more nerve-wracking than the podcasting. I love the podcasting, whether it's the Shrink to Shrink on the movie show or Coaching Through Chaos where I'm interviewing people. I just love that. I love the connection with the guests. I love connecting with my co-hosts. I love the audience feedback, all that stuff. Plus, I can do it in my pajamas and, nobody sees me, and I can put the mic up and just get going. So getting myself out and being visual and being on a video every week where it's live. I don't do any editing. I just sit there and I think of a topic Tuesday morning and I write a few little notes. And at 3:30, I turn on the Facebook and there we go. And what comes out of my mouth comes out of my mouth. And sometimes I have no idea what comes out of my mouth until it's done. And I'm like, God, did I really say that? Or sometimes I notice that I don't talk in full sentences because I do this thing, and this is why I don't even teach anymore, is because I always have this assumption that everybody knows what I know. So when I'm going to teach about something, I take the shorthand route. And so in the videos, I notice that I do some of that sometimes too. So there, so I do have doubts. But I committed to it. Someone kind of challenged me, that's kind of been a little bit of a business mentor last year, challenged me and said, if you're going to do these videos, don't do them every once in a while. You pick a day and you pick a time and you do it.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking, consistency is not one of our mutual strengths.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, fine. I looked at my schedule and when I would likely be able to do this, and I kept it. Every Tuesday at 3:30, I think over the course of the year, because we just hit Valentine's Day was a year, I missed 3, and 2 of them I made up because I was on vacation, so I did them at different times. And another one I was absolutely laid out and couldn't do it. But, doing that was, well, I'm making this commitment at the time, was anybody going to watch me? I don't know. And some weeks they do. A lot of people watch. Some weeks they don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take it to my ego doesn't get hit either way. I'm like, this is what I'm doing, because everything that I'm doing, as I said in the beginning, is to help people navigate the chaos in their life. So whether they see it on Tuesday afternoon or 6 months from now, they come across my profile or they see it on YouTube and they press play, and there's something helpful or something that they can pass on to their friend or their girlfriend or their brother or whatever. It's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yes.
So I don't get caught up in the numbers all that much, and but I definitely do doubt, am I doing it right? And when that creeps up, I just have to do like I tell my clients, it doesn't, like, I say, well, what if I did it wrong? Who cares?
Yes.
So what? If I really wanted to, I could hit delete and just erase it from the world. And I could do it over, or I could walk away and say, okay, well, I'll see you guys next week, So I've had to let go a lot of that stuff that makes you afraid to put yourself out there personally and vulnerably.
You think that part of that strength, though, is you do write a lot of articles that
Yes.
You can't hit delete on those, and I've talked to some of my clients who are nervous. They're good in person. They won't do any videos and they won't write it. They hire me to get it written down, whether it's on their website or whether it's in a manifesto or whether it's a book. And they say like, oh, but then it's real, then it's out there. And I'm thinking, well, Colleen, you've written so much out there, and you've been vulnerable out there, and it's. I feel like you've worked that muscle. I think it's a muscle that we work, of being able to share our stories.
Yes. And I always feel like people should share their stories. That's probably why I went down the path that I did in the career that I'm in, and kind of, went with, well, I can be vulnerable and be out there. So, and you're right though. So for as much as I think podcasting is probably safest, video is nerve-wracking, because you also then have the whole self-reflection of like, oh my God, what do I look like today? And I can scrutinize myself all over the place about that. And but then writing's really vulnerable, and it takes a while. To be honest with you, I have 3 books. One of them is a memoir, and then I have a technical book and a how-to book on the chaos theory, and then another book that I'm working on. And to be honest with you, those are the things that get put on the back burner all the time. But this weekend I'm working on one of them, and as a new goal. But the writing is the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because in the videos, like live videos, I get to say, if somebody asks a question or they misunderstand what I say, I get to say, oh, apparently I'm not saying what I need to say accurately, so let me rephrase that, right? If I'm in session with a client, I'm on the therapy couch, so I'm like, oh, right here. If I'm in session with the client, I can say, I can tell that you're not really getting what I'm saying. I see the look on your face, like, let's talk about that. What do you need to know from me to understand what I'm trying to get across? But then when you put your words out there, I'm not sitting over somebody's shoulder going, this is what I meant by that. And, and this is the rest of that, period of time.
Yeah,
so so they're left on their own. And I think we get scared when we give away a part of ourselves. And that's what writing our story is about. Our authentic story is giving away a part of ourselves to the public, whether the public is our proofreader, who's the only person who might ever read our book, or whether it's masses of people because you got a book deal and your book's going to be on every shelf in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So you are giving away a piece of yourself for scrutiny. And that is terrifying for many people. And so I don't want your audience to be terrified. I want them to feel brave and to just go ahead and do it anyway.
You know what's interesting about that too is I don't know how, I went down the whole of the internet, click, click, click. And there was a young boy now, he was a girl, and his journey to be a boy was very interesting. And he's a big YouTuber, and I forget his name. I'll try to remember it in the notes. But the point being is that he has millions of fans, and he says to everyone, I'm sorry I haven't been around for the last few months. I was writing a book. He said, because a book is more sustainable and will last much, much longer than any of these videos ever will. And he said, I want to make an impact on generations to come. And I thought, wow, what a brave soul to, but then I thought, well, a 17-year-old wants to write a book because, I'm making the assumption that millennials don't even want to read books, but it turns out that there's a huge wave of, in order to have it stay where it is, to be inspirational for years and years to come, that a book is actually quite nice. It doesn't have to be a long book. I don't believe it was more than 100 pages.
Well, and that 17-year-old has a story to tell that people much older will want to read also. It's not just to their own peers. There's, huge populations of people that would be interested in that story. And you're right. I guess, writing, our stories are our legacies. And if they're in writing, I suppose they'll last longer. That's an interesting take for a young person.
I know,
But
yeah.
I think stuff's on the internet longer because nothing ever goes away on the internet.
I thought too. I was enjoying the idea that our books are still valuable. I mean, there's no lack of wanting to have a book.
Yes, and for me, I have all the Kindles and everything, and try to do the digital books. I just can't. I just don't take to reading that way. So I spend a lot of money ordering the books so I can hold them in my hand.
Yes, I love that you said that. Yay. Well, let's see.
Well, I like to write all over them too.
Oh man, totally old school. And by the way, when you write all over them, just as a note, and you know this, you actually sear things further into the subconscious and the mind versus the digital world. Like you get that motor reflex somehow. So everybody out there, keep your pens and your paper. It's valuable.
Right. And that's why the therapist, when we say go home and write a letter or this or that, we want you to write by pen, or by hand, because a lot of clients will say, well, can I type it? No, it's not the same.
Yeah. That's interesting. I have a client who's actually writing his book on a yellow pad with a pen.
Oh,
which I'm really impressed with. And then he dictates it and
wow.
So I have a last question, and this is interesting. Would you be where you are today if you totally chose not to share any of your true stories?
I would not be as satisfied in my career if I was just wrote day in, day out, being a blank slate. Yeah. It's really hard for me to do it. You can hear, I'm a talker. I use my hands. I'm a New Yorker and at heart. And I would not be able to just kind of be that blank slate person. And I mean, look at how rich my life has become by being authentic with people and reaching out and going public and talking about things and sharing parts of myself. I have the most amazing collection of people in my life. Wow. And some of them are very close to me. Some of them are periphery people, but all of them are outstanding, amazing people that would never have been in my life if I didn't allow myself to get vulnerable and put myself on the line and say, this is what I really want to do with my career, and take that leap and just start talking. So
I love the way you said that. You said that with such joy in your heart. That was very sweet. Okay, one bit of advice you'd give to the person who has a wonderful story to tell and very, very, very dedicated, mission-driven, has a, pick an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what industry, but they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of putting themselves out there. Any advice you'd give to that new entrepreneur who really wants to make a difference?
Is to just, I just want to say, just bite the bullet and do it. Like just start telling people why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes,
If they haven't, if they're not sure how their story comes across and they want to write it, I'd say go to a couple of, networking meetups, and start telling people why you do what you do, and start getting your head around the words that describe why you do what you do and how you say it and where you're going to find the passion behind it. And so that would be my advice to them, is to just start doing it and to test the waters where they can by sharing the words with people, to help them get some feedback, because people will be interested. I promise you that. People will say, oh, really? Well, what else? How did you do that? Or how did you know that was going to be for you? And they will start helping you pull your story out of you.
I love that answer. That's a great answer, actually. The why, just, and yeah, when we tap into that why, everything kind of becomes a little easier, truly.
Yeah.
Well, this has been super fun, and you've got a really cool free gift for everybody. Tell us a little bit about your free gift.
Well, I do. And if people contact me and mention your summit, well, I will give them, actually, I think I'm going to extend it for your people, because I give most people 15-minute free phone consultations. I will give, if somebody mentions the summit, I'll give them a 30-minute consultation.
Wow.
Which can mean like anywhere in the country they can call from, and we'll schedule a time where I can kind of help them figure out what might hold them back. Like, maybe they're going to work with you as their writing coach, but maybe they need a little bit of an emotional oversight to see, like, how do I get started, or what do I need to do to overcome this block? And we'll do a planning session. And then if they want to go to my website for coachingthroughchaos.com, they will get a PDF of an article that I wrote called 8 Surefire Ways to Destroy Any Relationship.
Ah, wow.
Which I do give them the ways to fix that, but that's what they're going to get, a little free PDF from me that can help them have a better relationship today.
I love that. And not only blocks, but people who are feeling that their life is in chaos. There are millions of people feeling that way right now. So that would be
sure.
to have someone to talk to in whatever part of their life they're doing that. But you do specialize in marriage and relationships, which is awesome. So yeah, everybody out there feeling a little chaos, Colleen's got a great free gift as well as that PDF. And thank you so much. This is so helpful, especially from someone who has your range of what you do in the world. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Dawn. This was so great to join you again on the summit.
Oh, fun. Okay. Well, I do look forward. I'll see you one day. Either you're coming to Portland or I'm going to San Diego soon.
Yeah, I'll see you in Portland soon.
Okay. In the summer, not in the winter.
That's right.
Bye, Colleen. Thanks so much.
Bye.